The Ed Sullivan Theater lights were already blazing white-hot when Donald Trump pushed through the side entrance like a man who had never once doubted he belonged anywhere. His Secret Service detail fell in behind him, but he dismissed them with a flick of his wrist. That practiced, impatient gesture the whole country had seen 1,000 times. He didn't need escorts for a talk show. He'd done bigger rooms than this. The audience hit him with the usual New York roar. Half genuine excitement, half polite obligation. Trump spread his arms wide, soaking it in. He spotted David Letterman already behind the desk. Silver hair, glasses pushed low, that unreadable half-smile carved into his face like it had always been there. Letterman rose slowly, extended a hand. "Mr. President, welcome back. Good to have you here." No sharpness in it, no hidden edge, just clean, simple courtesy. Trump gripped the hand hard, gave the double pump, and dropped into the guest chair with the ease of a man returning to his favorite couch. "Dave," he said, leaning back, "people keep telling me you retired, and yet here you are, still the best seat on television." Letterman smiled the way a man smiles when he's already 3 moves ahead. "Couldn't stay gone forever, and when they told me you were available, how do you say no?" Trump pointed at a couple in the front row, grinning. "Even New York loves me. Unbelievable." "They love a story," Letterman said, "and you've always known how to give them one." The band punched a short sting. The red light blinked on. Trump squared his jacket. This was his world. Hot lights, live cameras, an audience in the palm of his hand. Letterman leaned in, elbows on the desk. "Mr. President, let's get right into it." Trump nodded, already loading his first answer. Economy, border, NATO, whatever layup they'd set up for him. But then Letterman's eyes shifted, just slightly, a change in focus, the way a lens adjusts before it locks on something. "There's something I need to raise," Letterman said, voice dropping a half register. "It concerns your son, Barron." Trump's grin held, but his eyes moved, one quick flicker sideways, fast as a reflex. Letterman laid it down flat. No dramatic buildup, no warning shot. "The evidence we've examined suggests Barron is not Melania's biological child. According to multiple sources, multiple documents, and a timeline that simply doesn't hold together. Barron is the son of you and Ivanka." 300 people inhaled at once. The sound was physical. A wall of breath sucked sharp into the room. A woman in the third row pressed her hand over her mouth. The band players went still. Trump's smile crumbled from the edges in, the corners pulling down slow, like cracks spreading through concrete after the ground shifts. He pushed out a laugh, too sharp, too fast. "Dave, come on. Barron is Melania's son. Everyone knows this. This is a joke, right?" He turned toward the crowd, looking for backup. The crowd didn't give it to him. "You're serious," he said. "You're actually sitting here, on live television, saying this out loud." Letterman didn't move. "I'm not joking. These questions have circulated for years. I've spoken with people who were present. When you line up the dates, the photographs, the disappearances from public life, the story the public was given doesn't hold. The evidence points to Ivanka carrying Barron, not Melania." The words settled into the room the way cold air settles. Not dramatic, not loud, just present everywhere at once. "Fake news, Dave. Classic fake news. You know how many lies get thrown at my family every week? This is just another one. Sad." Trump shook his head at the crowd, still trying to find the current. But the room wasn't moving with him. They were leaning forward instead, all of them, waiting. Letterman watched him the way a man watches a chessboard after sliding his queen into position. "Let's talk about what the months leading up to Barron's birth actually looked like," he said. "We go back to 2006. Melania is everywhere. Events, photo calls, charity appearances, baby bump on full display. But Ivanka, she's gone. No red carpets, no family photos, no press. The public explanations were travel, overseas work, all plausible on its own. But look at the dates against a standard pregnancy calendar. The window of her disappearance lines up precisely, almost surgically, with the final trimester." Trump leaned forward. "People travel, Dave. She had a career. You're drawing straight lines between dots that aren't connected." "Then there's Melania's wardrobe," Letterman continued, unmoved. "Loose sweaters, floor-length coats, flowing silhouettes even at indoor events in late winter. Every public photo angled the same way. Side view, never straight on, hand always placed here." He touched his own stomach lightly. Stylists from that period said independently the looks were designed, not comfort dressing, performance dressing. A murmur moved through the audience. Someone in the fourth row whispered just loud enough for the mics to catch. "I remember those outfits." Trump's jaw moved side to side. "Women wear comfortable clothes when they're pregnant. That's not a conspiracy, Dave. That's just—" "And then there's the hospital," Letterman said, cutting through with quiet precision. March 20th, 2006. Melania checks into Lenox Hill, public wing. Cameras capture her at the entrance. Press release goes out perfectly timed, but the birth records we've pieced together point to a different wing. Private, sealed, no press inside, no photographs from the room. Meanwhile, Ivanka doesn't resurface publicly for another week and a half. Trump's weight shifted forward, elbows on knees. Records? What records? Barron's birth certificate says Melania Trump, mother. Done. End of story. I'm not claiming the certificate was altered, Letterman said. I'm saying the public narrative around it was managed with precision. Announcement timed to the minute. Photographs in controlled batches. It fits too perfectly to be luck. It reads like planning. The theater was dead quiet. The tight, breathless quiet of people, afraid to miss a single syllable. Trump rubbed his jaw. The grin was completely gone. You're accusing my wife, my daughter, of some long-running cover-up? Tell me the motive. I'm presenting what people who were there told me, and what the documented record shows when you line it up, Letterman replied. If every piece is coincidence, say so. But it's a considerable amount of coincidence stacked in the same direction. Letterman eased forward. Let's bring in someone who was actually there. A woman I'll call Sarah. She spent years as one of Melania's personal stylists. He spoke without notes, measured, like repeating something committed to memory. Sarah was brought on specifically in fall 2005 through early 2006 to design and fit custom pieces, not standard maternity wear. Pieces with built-in structural elements, foam inserts, silicone panels, designed to simulate a progressing pregnancy under studio lighting and camera flash. During each session, Melania stood still while the prosthetics were fitted beneath the outer layers. Sarah was given one standing instruction: this work does not leave the room. The audience made a sound that lived somewhere between disbelief and recognition, a collective exhale buzzing low through the rows. Trump went rigid. That's complete garbage. Some anonymous stylist tells you fairy tales and you put it on live television? I know this playbook. It always ends the same way. Nothing, because there's nothing there. She's not anonymous to me, Letterman said. I have her on record, emails, photographs of original design sketches with adjustment notes and fitting dates. But let's not stop there. He paused half a beat. A second source, a man I'll call Mike, part of the private security detail during that period. He told me he personally drove Ivanka to a private clinic in New Jersey in early March 2006. No press, no entourage, just him and a partner. She arrived in active labor. She gave birth that night. She left the next morning holding the infant. He signed NDAs. He stayed quiet for years. The thing that finally broke him was watching Melania credited as the mother over and over, while he knew the truth. Trump's hand hit the armrest, controlled, like someone pressing down hard to stop themselves from doing something worse. A made-up bodyguard. Where's the proof? You can't throw anonymous names at my family and call that journalism. That's defamation. Straight defamation. His voice cracked on the word. Just a hairline fracture. The room caught it. These are individuals who carried this for years, Letterman said steadily. The clinic Mike described matches independently with private flight logs and security movement records we cross-checked separately. There is no public admission record for Melania at that facility. There is documentation connected to Ivanka. And I'd like to stop describing Sarah and let her speak for herself. Sarah, you're live. The large screen behind the desk lit up. She appeared, mid-40s, sharp-eyed, hair pulled back simply. Plain wall behind her. No performance in her posture. She looked directly into the camera, directly at Trump. Sarah, Letterman said, can you tell the president and everyone watching what your work actually involved? She didn't hesitate. I was contracted to create maternity looks that weren't maternity. We used prosthetics, foam belly panels, silicone pieces, custom fitted to move naturally under fabric and read as real under flash photography. She raised 2 pages toward the camera, hand-drawn, curved forms, measurements in pencil, notes in the margins, adjust arc for camera angle, reinforced strapping at upper seam. The close-up camera caught every line. These were made for the December through February appearances. I was told not to discuss it. I signed paperwork. I stayed quiet for a long time. I'm not quiet anymore. Trump was half out of his chair, finger aimed at the screen. You are lying. I've never seen those sketches. I've never seen you. You're manufacturing this for whatever they're paying you, and you should be ashamed. Sarah didn't move. I'm not here for attention. I signed a document saying I'd never speak publicly. I'm breaking it because I can't keep pretending the public version is real. The prosthetics existed. The fittings happened. Trump swung back to Letterman. You arranged all of this and brought me here anyway. That's an ambush. It's not an ambush if it's substantiated. Letterman lifted a small slip of paper. "We also received a statement from the Trump family spokesperson. I'll read it verbatim. The Trump family will not participate in this baseless spectacle. These claims are false, defamatory, and constitute an invasion of private family matters. All legal options are being actively explored." He set the paper down. The room went electric, not with sound, but with voltage. The kind of charge that builds before something breaks. Trump lurched halfway out of the chair, caught himself, dropped back hard. The seat let out a sharp creak. "Privacy invasion is right. You dragged my daughter, my wife, my son into this. This is harassment. Lawsuits are coming, big ones. You won't have a show left." His voice broke on show. Sweat caught the light at his temples. Both hands shook where they gripped the chair arms. The audience wasn't booing. They weren't cheering. They were watching with the stillness of people, witnessing something they hadn't been prepared for. Letterman waited. Then, quietly, "I'm not the one who made the decisions you're being asked about tonight. If everything here is fabricated, come back with your own evidence. Bring documents. Bring witnesses. We'll put it on air." A beat. But leaving doesn't make the questions go away. Trump's breathing was audible. He stared at the exit sign for 1 full second. Everyone in the room saw it. Then he looked back at the audience, at the camera, at the red light. "You're finished," he said quietly. Then to the crowd, "All of this is rigged, every bit of it." But the word had lost its old electricity. It landed flat, like a key that no longer fits the lock. "We're not done yet," Letterman said. He reached beneath the desk and set a plain manila folder on the surface. No music, no flourish. "You've asked for proof more than once tonight, so here's some." He held 2 sheets toward the camera. The main screen enlarged them. Photocopied pages, partially redacted, hospital header visible, timestamps in the corners. An admission log, March 18, 2006. Private wing. Patient listed as VIP. Discharged the following morning. A newborn intake. Same wing, same night. No maternal name attached. The public hospital record connected to Melania is dated March 20th. Different wing. 2-day gap. How do both things exist? Trump stared at the screen. "Those are stolen. Forged. You're committing a crime right here on live television." They were provided by someone who witnessed the situation and couldn't carry it anymore. The dates don't align with the public account. Melania's photo op at Lenox Hill came 2 days after this admission. How does that work? "Tom's on the line," Letterman said. The screen split. A second face appeared. Older, graying beard, sitting in what looked like the cab of a parked vehicle. Steady eyes, no theatrics. "Tom was Mike's partner that night." "Tom, you're live." "I was there. I drove with Mike. Ivanka was in the back. She was in labor. I could hear it. We went in through the rear entrance. I stayed by the corridor outside the delivery area. When it was over, she came out holding the baby. Small, wrapped in blue. She was crying quietly, the way people do when something enormous just happened and they're exhausted. We drove straight to a private residence. We never went near the public wing at Lenox Hill. I never saw Melania that night. Not once." Trump rose fully, arms out, voice hitting the ceiling. "Both of you, liars, paid, coordinated, a deep state production. You think you can parade strangers onto a screen and I just sit here? Fabrication, total fabrication." The audience inhaled. Sharp, collective, louder than any before it. Trump paced half a step, wheeled back, pointed at the screen. Face deep red, veins visible at the neck. "You're destroying my family for ratings. That's all this is." "Tom," Letterman said quietly, "did you see Melania at the clinic that night?" Tom answered without hesitation. "No, sir, she wasn't there. Ivanka was. Ivanka had the baby. I watched her hold him. That's what happened." Trump stopped mid-pace. For the first time all night, nothing came out. He stood at the center of the stage, under the full brightness of the lights, and the room went so silent that the hum of the overhead rigs was audible. A woman near the aisle had both hands pressed together against her mouth. Trump looked at the audience, at Letterman, at the red light. He walked back to the chair and sat down, hard. The impact carried across the mic. He pressed both hands over his face and pulled them down slow. "Fine," he said quietly. "You win this round. But this isn't close to over." "We're not here to win a round," Letterman said. "We're here because someone should ask." Then he set a small audio device on the desk. "One more piece." A former aide who worked directly with the family. He asked to be identified only as Alex. A man's voice filled the studio. 30s, tightly controlled. The steadiness of someone who had rehearsed staying calm. "Mr. President, I'm sorry it's come to this. In late 2005, I was in the Trump Tower residence. It was late. You and Ivanka were in the study. The door was ajar. I heard you clearly. You said, 'We handle this right. No one ever knows. Melania plays the part. We keep the family looking perfect.' And she answered, "Dad, as long as the baby is safe, I'll do whatever it takes." And you said, "Good girl, this stays between us forever." The voice stopped. What happened to Trump's face in that moment would be studied and described for months afterward. The color didn't just drain, it evacuated, fast and total, like a tide pulling out before a wave arrives. His mouth opened. Nothing came through it. His eyes went somewhere else. Not to the audience, not to Letterman, not to the camera. Somewhere inward and far away. The audience went completely still. That never happened, Trump said, voice low and stripped of everything else. "This is AI. A deep fake. They can clone my voice now. Everyone knows." Letterman pressed play. The studio filled with audio, grainy, as though recorded from a pocket, but unmistakably present. "Handle this right. No one ever knows." Melania plays the part. A softer voice, feminine. "Baby's safe. I'll do whatever it takes." Then lower. "Good girl. This stays between us. Forever." Static. Then silence. The room imploded. Sound collapsing inward. People exchanging expressions that couldn't settle on what they were. Shock and recognition, and something close to vertigo. Phones were up everywhere. "Doctored," Trump said, voice hoarse. "Any studio in the country can do this now." 3 independent forensics laboratories reviewed it, Letterman said. No indicators of manipulation. He reached for a button, and the screen filled with 2 photographs side by side. January 2006, public event. Melania, shape notably uniform, angle controlled. And here, the second image expanded. Security camera footage, March 18th, private clinic entrance. A woman assisted through a rear door, visibly in late-term pregnancy. Details consistent with Ivanka, not Melania. Same night as the admission log, 2 days before Melania's photographed arrival at Lenox Hill. He set it down simply. How does that gap close? Trump stared at both photographs. His jaw worked. The silence that followed was different from all the others. Not defiance gathering itself, but something slower and heavier. When he spoke, his voice had changed entirely. "Look, maybe I misremembered some of the dates. It was years ago. Details blur." The words landed in the room like a stone into still water. For a full second, nobody moved. Trump heard himself. His eyes went wide. "I mean specific minor details, not the core facts. The core facts are, Melania is..." But the sentence had already escaped. The room had already caught it. Then the armor came off entirely, and what was underneath was pure, uncontrolled noise. He was on his feet, pointing in 3 directions at once. At Letterman, at the screen, at the audience. "This is a conspiracy, a media conspiracy. Fake audio, fake photographs, fake witnesses. All of it bought and coordinated by people who can't accept that I won. You're all in on it. Everyone in this room. This was arranged from the start." He was shouting fully now, voice hoarse, finger jabbing at nothing and everything. The crowd watched in silence so complete, it amplified every crack in his voice, every labored breath. Nobody nodded, nobody cheered. Letterman waited until the wave broke. Then, quietly, "If it's all constructed, then why did you just say you misremembered key dates? Why did the color leave your face when that audio played?" He slid one more sheet across the desk. "And why does a private jet manifest, filed under Ivanka's name, departing New Jersey at 6 in the morning on March 19th, destination Trump Tower, exist while Melania was still in recovery at Lenox Hill?" Trump looked at the paper, looked at Letterman, looked at the camera. He sat down. Not staged, not controlled, just the weight of the night collecting and pulling downward all at once. "You're twisting all of it," he said, volume almost gone. Letterman leaned forward one final increment. "I'm showing what exists. The absences, the prosthetics, the private admission on the 18th while the public photo op was staged for the 20th. 2 bodyguards, independently, placing Ivanka at that clinic with a newborn. Audio of you describing the arrangement. A flight manifest placing her back in New York hours after the birth. Every piece goes the same direction." He paused. "If none of this happened, why build the architecture to hide it? Why the prosthetics? Why the NDAs? Why the staged photos? Why the sealed wing? What was the reason?" The question sat in the air like smoke. Trump's head came up. The anger was still there, but it was no longer a weapon. It had become something else. A wall he was standing on the wrong side of. "There is no motive," he said carefully, "because there is no story." "Then look at the camera and say it plainly," Letterman said, voice almost gentle. "None of this happened. Here is my evidence. We'll air it right now, unedited." The room held its breath. Trump looked at the camera. The red light stared back. 3 seconds, 4, 5. Then both palms hit the desk. The microphones jumped. The sound cracked through the theater like something structural had given way. Defamation! His voice hit the ceiling. Pure defamation. You've sat here waving around stolen paperwork, playing doctored audio, parading paid liars through a satellite feed. And you're asking me to prove a negative to the President of the United States? You are finished. This network is finished. Every person who had a hand in tonight will hear from my legal team by morning. He shoved back from the desk, chair screeching across the floor. The Secret Service detail tensed along the wall. Trump stood upright, both hands trembling as he aimed one last finger at Letterman. You crossed something tonight, Dave. Something that cannot be uncrossed, and you're going to live with that. He turned, mid-sentence, mid-threat, and walked, fast, clean strides toward the stage exit. No wave, no grin, no final line for the cameras. The red curtain parted as he reached it. He pushed through without breaking stride. The door closed behind him with a dull, mechanical thud that echoed from the back wall to the front row. The theater went absolutely still. Then, like a pressure seal releasing, 300 people exhaled at once. Phones raised. Somewhere in the middle of the audience, a voice said quietly, "Did he just?" And nobody answered. No cheering, no booing, just the low, humming aftermath of something that couldn't be taken back. Letterman sat at the desk and did not smile. He looked directly into the main camera, as even as he'd been at the start. "Well," he said, "that's where we are." He let it breathe. The questions are still on the table. The records, the witnesses, the audio, the timeline, still there. And the offer stands. Anyone from the Trump family, anyone who was present, anyone who has a different version of what happened, come sit here. We'll keep it fair. We'll keep it live. A pause. This isn't about winning a news cycle. It's about what's real. And sometimes the loudest denial is itself the most informative response you get. The band played something slow and spare. Letterman gave a single small nod. "Good night. We'll be back." The red light went dark. Within the hour, the Trump team released a statement across every platform. Tonight's broadcast was a fabricated attack. The alleged records are fraudulent. The alleged witnesses are paid operatives. The alleged audio is synthetic. Legal action will be swift and comprehensive. Melania said nothing. Ivanka said nothing. The family accounts stayed dark. Cable news ran the walkout on a continuous loop before midnight. By morning, Letterman v. Trump was trending in 12 countries. Analysts slowed down the same handful of moments. The color leaving Trump's face when the audio played. The word misremembered slipping out before it could be caught. The half-second glance toward the exit sign. He came in expecting a performance, one analyst said. He left looking like a man cornered by his own secrets. 60 hours later, a chain of partially redacted family emails surfaced on a whistleblower site. One from Ivanka, sent weeks after Barron's birth. "The press is asking about the hospital again. Do we hold the story or let it fade?" Trump's reply, 3 words, "Hold it, no cracks." The emails hadn't been authenticated yet, but the phrasing matched, the timing matched. The pattern matched everything Letterman had laid out, piece by piece, in the bright and unforgiving light of the Ed Sullivan Theater. The family stayed silent. The questions stayed standing. And somewhere, in whatever room he'd retreated to after the curtain fell, the loudest man in American public life had not yet found the words to make any of it go away.